Okay, so one more thing with measurement, and that's how to measure angles, which is really useful for a box. So one of the things to notice about a box, and this is actually a cube, not just a regular box, but you can draw any box you have. If you turn it so that it's facing the viewer, you can't see the left or the right, that's probably not the best position for practice measuring angles. So you want to turn it so that you can see a little bit of one side or the other. If it's sort of equal, that's okay, but it's probably going to be better if you have a side that looks a little bit bigger and a side that looks a little bit smaller. And you don't want it too close to your eye level. So if you raise a box higher and higher and higher, your brain knows that there's an angle here, but at some point, when it gets to exactly the eye level, so the eye level of the camera, not my eye level, camera's higher than my eyes, it turns into a straight line, which is really confusing for us visually. It's really hard to process that, yes, it actually is a straight line. So make sure that when you put your box out, you can see the top of it. That would make it a lot easier. So I'm going to set my box over there where you can see it too. And remember, it's off to the edge, so things are going to look a little bit distorted and possibly a little bit warped. So I'm going to hold my pencil over it to give you the idea, but then I'm going to close my eye and do my measurements, not from the camera, because that's not quite as accurate. The first thing that you need to do is you need to draw something that is fixed. You know what direction to put it in, and it helps you start your box. So you want to draw the leading edge. The leading edge is this thing right here. It's the part of the box. It's the vertical edge right in the middle. So the first thing you do is you draw that vertical line. This is actually not top and bottom of the line. So I'm making it as a measurement line. I'm not thinking about it as drawing the contour, starting and stopping the line. I'm drawing a vertical line on my paper to go, it's going to go in this space. And then along that line, I'm going to say, well, I'm going to put the bottom corner and the top corner here and here. And so that ends my line. That tells me the corners of the box. To measure an angle, there's 3 ways to do it. You got to close one eye again, right, to get rid of your depth perception. The easiest way is to hold your arm out straight. So remember, you need to be fingertip distance from your easel or your drawing board, whatever your drawing situation is. You stretch out your arm, you close one eye, try to get it in the camera, and you match the angle of the box with your pencil. And then you just slide your pencil over your paper and you draw the angle on your paper. Okay? That's the fastest way to measure an angle. So, I could do the top of the box. Angle, slide it over, okay? But what happens, there's a couple of things that happen. So as you do that, your hand tends to turn and twist and maybe go in and out. So remember, you want to pretend you're measuring against a sheet of glass. When you're doing your measurements, you want your stuff vertical. And that can change really easily. So it's one of those measurement tools. The faster you do it, the more accurate you're going to be. But because you're going so fast, you might make a mistake and not notice it. So I prefer this method for measuring angles. It tends to give me the best results, but it doesn't work for everybody. So another way to measure an angle, after I get the cat out, come on, Liz, get on. No, your cat stay up there. All right. So another way to measure an angle is to hold your pencil out and create a vertical, depending on what kind of angle, what direction the angle is going, a vertical or horizontal line that you can then use to see a negative shape. So if you're good at seeing negative shapes, another way to get the angle is to line it up. I'm doing it with my eye again, not the camera, so that you could see the space underneath the box as a negative shape. So you've stopped thinking about it as a box. You're short-circuiting your brain, which is going, but it has to be long and it has to have a really big angle, and angles that are really close to horizontal or vertical are very hard to see. So doing this is a good way to help your brain see it if it is really close to a horizontal or a vertical line. That's the second way of measuring an angle. So one way, and I'm going to put it on my paper this time, is to take your pencil, line it up with the angle, and slide it over. Okay, so again, I'm not stopping at the bottom of the box. I'm doing a measurement line. And I could do the other side, the bottom. And I kind of look at the angle and then draw the angle. So this is sort of like a quick memorization process to get the angle on the paper. Or I can hold my pencil out, look at it as a negative shape, memorize that as a negative shape, go over here on my paper, draw a horizontal line, and look at it. And the negative shape was telling me that this angle is not this. So it's really common when I measure more than one way. Sorry, my head's probably in the way, but I gotta lean in so I can get to my paper. If I measure more than one way, I get a different angle, depending on what's going on. That's not uncommon, so don't freak out if you measure one way and you see the angle one way, and you measure another way and you get the angle another way. You just need to figure out which way works for you the best most of the time. The third way works really poor for me. I'm not sure why, I just don't get good results from it, but for some people it works really well. And that is to look at your corner as if it is the center of a clock. So anything that's going straight up and down would be a 12. Anything that's going downward, that's the 6. Those horizontal lines, this would be where the 3 is, this would be where the 9 is. And to measure that, what you do is you take your pencil, you hold it against the angle that you're trying to measure, and then you stop looking at it, and you look at your pencil, and you go, well, what is it pointing at? So I have to do it not in the camera. Or maybe I can do it in the camera. So if I hold it like this, and I go vertically, so 3 would be here, 12 would be there. It is just below. So you split this into thirds. So that line was telling me, but it's in the camera. So if I do it with my eye, and getting it a little bit lower in the eye, but it's still more of an angle. And I'm not going to use that one because I know that it is the least accurate way for me to do it. So then what you want to do to draw the rest of your box, you measure angles the way that it works best for you. So I'm going to use the slide it over method because that's the way that works best for me. Close one eye, go on the angle, draw the line, close one eye, line it up on the edge of the box to show the angle, go over to your paper, put the angle down, and then I have to deal with this. That's a size measurement. So what you do is you measure the horizontal distance. So don't measure along your angles because your angles are probably wrong. So when I measure, I'm going to compare the height of the leading edge to the width going this way and then that way to figure out how big this is compared to that. I'm not going to measure along the angle because if my angle is wrong, my measurement's going to be wrong. But if I go straight across, then I don't have to worry about that as an error. So I'm going to measure, I'm going to hold my pencil out horizontally like this. I'm going to measure the size from the left to the leading edge, so from the left to the middle. And then I'm going to turn my hand like this, put my thumb at the bottom corner, and how much of the leading edge do I see? So when I do it with my eye instead of the camera, my result is about this much. Okay, so if I take my pencil, I take that as a side. So like the size of the distance from the middle to the side was equal to the bottom corner to there. So if I take my pencil and I take that distance here, that tells me where the far left side of the box is. And then if I go in the other direction, it's the same process. I hold my pencil out, pencil point on the leading edge this time because I'm right-handed. So if you're left-handed, I'm going like this. If you're left-handed, you're coming at it from the other direction. So when I'm saying left or right, try to ignore it. You're going the other way. Whatever is comfortable for your hand, right? So using my right hand, my pencil point is on the middle and my thumb is on the other one. If I was using my left hand, it would be the other way around. My thumb would be on the middle line and my pencil point would be on the right edge. So when I compare that distance, leading edge, middle line, to the far right side, and I compare that to the height of the box, it is from here to here. So I take that as a size on my paper, and then I go like this, straight across. So that tells me that the far right side of my box is over there. And I got a weird straight line, so I'm going to get rid of it. I'm not going to try to clean up my lines so they're like super skinny and perfect. Because I'm probably going to have to change them again anyway. So the last thing that I need to do, construction of a box, is I need to locate the back corner. That's the hardest one. Our brains really want to angle these lines upward to leave more space between the front and the back, because we know that there's a certain amount of distance between the front corner and the back corner. And we almost always over-exaggerate that distance. It's the same thing when you're doing a landscape. We tend to exaggerate the distance between where one object starts and another object in the background. And so it sort of stretches out the ground plane of a landscape. It makes it look really weird. Or you do a still life, and it stretches out the table of the still life, and it looks like the still life has sort of got a table that's like tilted at an angle instead of flat. Super common. So you want to measure two things. And I call this the crosshairs method. You want to measure the location of the back corner vertically by doing that vertical line with your pencil. So you hold it out. Where does the vertical line cross the side of your box? So somewhere along this vertical line is my back corner. And then I want to measure along that line how high the distance between the front edge and the back corner compared to the size of my leading edge. So I can do that and count in my leading edge, or I could do my leading edge and do it as a fraction. It doesn't really matter. I just need to know the size relationship of the distance from here to the back corner compared to the height of my leading edge. So I'm going to do it as a fraction. I'm going to take my pencil point like this. Move it over. It's really hard because this is like reverse. There we go. Pencil point to where my thumb is. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold my thumb on the front line of the box. And I'm going to look at the pencil. And I'll be like, how far up the pencil is that back corner? And that gives me a distance. So when I do it with my eye, instead of in the camera, the distance is about like that much, more than half, maybe 2/3-ish. If I had to put a number to it, it's about, it's like it's that relationship. So it's about like that. So it's about this high. So this should be my back corner. And if I got it right, which I probably didn't, because I always have to measure the back corner multiple times. If I got it right, oh, that's a horrible back corner. See, my eye did it too. Every time, the back corner always gets to be too high. So I'm going to go at it another way. I'm going to measure the angle the way that I know it is the most accurate for myself. And then I'm going to measure the other side. And I think what happened is I moved around a little bit as I was doing the demo. And I think my vertical line is not in the right spot. So I'm going to measure that again. All right, vertical edge, where is it? It's definitely further over than what I had. Okay, so this is the, the plant your feet thing. I'm moving around a lot more than I normally do because of the camera and the positioning of everything. And no, really, I'm just making excuses, right? Chances are the first time that you do that back corner, you're not going to put it in the right spot, and you're probably going to put it too high. So, in terms of erasing, yes, I'm going to erase the incorrect lines. I want those to go away so that I can see what's going on. So if my corner is there, and I'm like, I'm much happier with that. It looks like a box. I think it's still not quite right. I think that my corner needs to be over here a little bit, which would bring that vertical edge here, which is not inconsistent with what I was seeing because the pencil's so fat it's hard to place it. There's one final step that you want to take. And it's really helpful if you have a ruler, but anything that will make a straight edge. And then this is how you want to double check your box to see if it is a reasonable box. So when you're doing a still life, it isn't, these are not linear perspective drawings. We'll get to that later. But you still want a box that looks like it follows the rules of perception, how we actually see things. So if you extend your lines like this, so what I did is I took a ruler and I pretended there was a pole or a line going along the edge and then continuing out into space. So this is the closest part of the box. This is the furthest part on the sides, and this is the furthest part of the box as the whole thing. So if you take something that's equal in 3 dimensions, so the height of the box on this part compared to this part is exactly the same. Things that are further away appear to be smaller, so on my paper, this line should be a little bit longer, this line should be a little bit shorter. It should look like you have what are called converging lines. It should look like they're coming together very gradually to meet somewhere over there at a point. It should look like they're coming together to gradually meet somewhere at a point over there. You can take a ruler to double check if you have to. You kind of just want to eyeball it. So that's like 4 3/4. This is 4 inches. So this is definitely bigger than this. Like this is what I do with my finger. I just go, all right, top to bottom. Is that smaller? Good. Is that smaller? Good. Okay, and then so on the other side, you do the same thing. You measure this, you compare that size. They're almost exactly the same. It might be okay. If I look at my lines the way they've extended, they do seem to be getting a little bit closer together, so it's okay. The thing that you want to avoid, and this is the one that I'm concerned about, I'm not terribly certain. I think this edge is bigger than this edge. So if I take from corner to corner and then I compare it is. These lines are spreading apart. So if your lines spread apart, your box is wrong. Like if they're coming together and it looks like a differently proportioned box than the one that you're looking at, you still have a believable box. If your lines are spreading apart, you don't have a believable box. The closest part of the box needs to look like it is smaller than the furthest part of the box. So what you need to do, and you actually need to like find a corner. So like, I don't know if you can see it, but like my corner is here and my vertical edge is here. So my corner is actually not lined up with the side of the box. And if I do that, that stays like that. So this needs to come a little bit more, that line needs to be a little bit shorter. Remember, this was the angle that I was struggling with, was this side. And then if I compare, so it's this length, and now it is just slightly, see, that's not much of a change in where the corner is located, but it's just enough to make sure that the close part of the box is bigger than the further part of the box, so that my lines actually look like they converge. Now, when you're doing these as an exercise, I want to see all these measurement lines. Don't get rid of them. I need to know and understand that you've gone through the process and you know how to measure. When we set a still life up and we're drawing a still life and we're drawing other stuff, do you have to do all of the measuring that I've shown you how to do? No, you measure when you need to.